American Redoubt Radio Operators Network and is a nationwide disaster preparedness network made up of patriot-oriented radio operators.
Welcome, AmRRON members, to Part 3 in the AmRRON 2020 video series, covering what's going on with AmRRON in 2020 and how to get involved. In Part 3, I'll be discussing the Vericode project, what it is, why we're doing it, and how you can participate. By the way, a white paper and a couple of other postings were produced in early January explaining the Vericode project, which includes hyperlinks to resources and are available at AmRRON.com. Simply type AIB Vericode and hit enter. Be sure to include the hyphen, Veri-code. I've since dropped the hyphen, but that's still necessary for the related postings to come up in your search. So what is the Vericode project? Essentially, it is somewhat of a radio-based scavenger hunt. Participating radio operators are looking for two pieces of information called a Vericode, or verification code, and a supplemental Vericode. The Vericode consists of a set of 4 randomly generated numbers, and the supplemental Vericode consists of a set of 4 randomly generated letters. When combined, they become the password necessary for unlocking or decrypting a weekly edition called a journal entry in an ongoing fictional dystopian story called The Partisan Operator Journals, for which I am the sole author. I initially called the Vericode project Layered Training with Rewards. It's free for anyone wishing to participate. That's the reward, a way of saying thanks for your hard work in getting your comms up to a minimum level and maintaining those skills. I'll also be publishing those in book form every 6 months in hopes of generating interest in emergency communications, both from a prepper and a civil defense perspective for new folks. I'm trying to wrap an interesting story around actual radio and electronics skills, security and intelligence, tradecraft, concepts and doctrine that I feel may benefit patriots in an increasingly uncertain world in the future. But keep in mind, it is fiction. Besides what I've previously mentioned, there's an even more practical reason behind the Vericode project. I noticed, along with several other senior AmRRON Corps members, that on-air participation was waning. Although passing along a new Net Word of the Week each week has its benefits, it's more like passing along a baton than it is passing traffic. I developed the AmRRON Intelligence Brief, what we call the AIB, in order to 1. Produce an overview of real-world news and intelligence items that would make the nets more interesting. 2. Give participating radio operators something real they could receive and pass on during their nets. And 3. Provide NCSs with real-world traffic in a way that would require them to coordinate with others in the network prior to their nets, just like they would in a real-world situation for distributing AmRRON traffic to other stations during their nets. This worked really well, in fact, almost too well. The AIB is distributed each Tuesday on a preset schedule, and then it goes viral across the country over the Persistent Presence net through that day and the rest of the week. This got a lot of stations to take to the airwaves, chasing down each week's AIB. The unintended consequence of that, however, was that we saw a sharp decline in the regularly scheduled AmRRON nets. Why? Because station operators already got the AIB earlier from the Persistent Presence net, where operators were passing it around to each other, as they're supposed to do. So, we have volunteer net control station operators setting aside their own time to volunteer to be on the air to run their nets, only to have 1 or 2 check-ins, or sometimes none at all. That's when I decided to design the Vericode project as a way of providing an incentive to still check into the controlled scheduled nets, even if an operator already has the AIB. Here's how it works, and how AmRRON operators are participating each week, and how you can too. At the bottom of each weekly AIB, you'll see a 4-number Vericode. Save those numbers. That's the first part of the password for decrypting the current week's Partisan Operator Journal. The AIB can be passed from person to person at any time of day, whether over the Persistent Presence net, a regularly scheduled practice net, or by coordinating with other operators. However, the AIB may only be passed over the air by radio or in person by courier. Also, the Vericode cannot be passed by itself. It must be part of the AmRRON intelligence brief, and it must accompany the AmRRON intelligence brief. The supplemental Vericode is sent out as a .txt or text file. Although it can be passed on by itself in plain text, it does not have to remain in a text file format. The body of the text should state Supplemental Vericode, followed by the AIB date with which that supplemental Vericode corresponds, followed by a 4-letter group. That group of 4 letters is the actual supplemental Vericode. Save those letters. That's the second portion of the password to decrypt the weekly Partisan Operator Journal. The supplemental Vericode may only be passed wirelessly over radio and only during regularly scheduled AmRRON nets or for 1 hour after the close of a net as a piece of relayed net traffic. HF net control stations, or NCSs, should be corresponding with backbone stations prior to their scheduled nets to ensure they have the traffic for the net. If for some reason an NCS does not acquire the supplemental Vericode prior to the net, it can be passed on to the NCS by any station on the net who may have acquired the supplemental Vericode from a previous net. Each week, a new journal entry is posted on the Partisan Operator Journal page, and it can be posted at any time between Monday and Wednesday. It only stays posted for 1 week, and then it's gone, irretrievable, forever. You can bookmark the page so that you can return to it each week more easily, or you can navigate to it by hovering over the Resources tab, then over the AIB Training button, and then by clicking on the Partisan Operator Journal button. If you email me stating that you missed it that week, I'll feel sad right along with you, and then I'll encourage you with a reminder that there's always next week. Once you see the new Partisan Operator Journal entry posted, you notice it is encrypted. Using your mouse, highlight only the encrypted portion of the text on the page and copy the text. To decrypt the text for reading, you'll need to use the PTE, or Paranoia Text Encryption application to decrypt and read the journal entry. PTE is really simple to download and use, and it's free. Although they also provide a web-based version, I would never expect real-world life-or-death information to truly be considered secure using any web-based encryption program. I strongly recommend downloading the program and using it as a standalone application on an air-gapped computer, one that is never connected to the internet. PTE is a cross-platform program with downloads available for Linux, Windows, and Mac. While they also have an Android version, I would only recommend using encryption on an air-gapped smart device. Although PTE is an easy and intuitive encryption program, there are also tutorials available which explain more advanced features and more information about the various levels of encryption PTE has available. And that's it. Feel free to copy and paste those into your favorite text document program and save them. But please don't post them on the internet or share them with others who haven't earned them, like others who have invested in the needed skills and practice. It's an honor system. I hope that helps. Be watching for part 4 in the AmRRON 2020 video series. We'll all be discussing more AmRRON operations and how you can participate. God bless and 73. This is John Jacob Schmidt, out.
As ready, trained communicators, right up to the present time, radio hams have been busy every single minute. The ever-increasing group of radio amateurs who have equipped themselves at their own expense with two-way radio sets by amateurs who saw their opportunity to render a public service and paid off for Americans in trouble.